Hello again, everyone. This is Lou Rossetti speaking as the Blue Ridge Reporter on February 3rd, 2012, a Friday, a day when the latest Bureau of Labor Statistics unemployment figures were released. And according to the Bureau, the unemployment rate is now 8.3%, if I understood the news reports correctly, down slightly from 8.5%. My purpose in this presentation is not simply to recite the reports, but to get behind the headlines so that you'll have an idea what these numbers really mean and how limited the major media is regarding the presentation of this kind of information. The unemployment number includes an assumption, statistical assumption, that is made by the Bureau called their birth-death model. I've explained this before, but I think it's important to explain it again. The birth-death model assumes that when certain companies die, their employees are released into the workforce, unemployed, but they're hired by the new companies that are born. And those new hires are not yet reported by those companies to the Bureau, so the Bureau doesn't have those new employees. It assumes exist and therefore makes this adjustment based on this assumption, according to a certain formula, to add numbers into the unemployment numbers regarding additional employees that there is no proof actually exist. The birth-death model, which seemed to me, would make more sense and perhaps have some significant validity in a stronger economy, one in which companies were being born, so to speak. New companies were being created, so when companies died, those employees that became unemployed would be adopted, so to speak, by the happy little new company around its employment family table and say, you were orphaned by this company that died, but we'll adopt you as employees, and therefore we'll report that to the Bureau. And so the Bureau wouldn't have those numbers, and then it would be appropriate, it seems, to make some kind of adjustment because those new employees could not yet be verified. But in an economy like ours, it may not make a lot of sense to employ the birth-death model. The birth-death model sometimes adds tens of thousands of assumed jobs to each month's employment number. Very significant, not just a marginal increase. In fact, some months, most of the numbers of employed people have been calculated by using the birth-death model. A very significant statistical assumption. Plus, if we are to believe that any function of government can surely and must assuredly be devoid of political influence, then we might believe that we are assured that the Bureau of Labor Statistics is such an agency. But it's staffed by bureaucrats. They have essentially civil service status. But above them, there's going to be some appointee of whatever administration that would have influence and control over the Bureau. And considering we're speaking about a matter of statistics, a slight change in certain assumptions, a slight massage in the data regarding the formulas by which these numbers are calculated can change the outcome fairly significantly, or at least in a meaningful way. So there's that issue. We must understand, of course, we can't be naive. The Consumer Price Index, as you know, does not include food and fuel. If you didn't know that, you know it now. that means that CPI number put out by the government doesn't include heating oil for your house, gasoline for your car, or food on the table, because they said those statistics vary too much for us to keep track of them, yet they profess to be able to manage the economy and fine-tune it. So there's a real contradiction and some significant hypocrisy in that statement. But nonetheless, the CPI excludes that. Moreover, the CPI that we use today was changed during the Clinton years to make the inflation numbers look less. If we use the old CPI formula, pre-Clinton, the inflation numbers would be much more substantial than they are today. The unemployment numbers do not include people who have dropped out of the workforce and are no longer looking, so they're just not counted. The unemployment number is simply the raw number of jobs as assumed and calculated by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The quality of the jobs is not an issue. The level of pay is not an issue. So it doesn't have that much significance regarding the health of the economy and the employment situation in particular, but it is a headline number, and it moves markets. It moves Wall Street, and in fact, it may color the thinking of the American people. Hey, the economy is getting better. They said that on TV. I don't see it around here, but hey, maybe it didn't get here yet. So keep that in mind. These numbers can be deceiving. To help you, I would suggest a quick 2-minute read every morning. You can come in on your computer. It's from Everbank, an online bank that provides CDs and other savings instruments in foreign currencies. I'm not recommending their products. I don't recommend foreign currencies. This is not investment advice. It's about a letter they produce called the Daily Pfennig, P-F-E-N-N-I-G, written by Chuck Butler. And I would recommend that. You can sign up for free. Chuck will go through a lot of information about looking behind the headlines, seeing what the numbers actually are. He gets into all the machinations of the various central banks and how they manipulate the economies of Europe and the United States, the competition with China. It's very instructive, and if you want more information, in particular about the unemployment numbers, I recommend the Daily Pfennig, written by Chuck Butler, published online for free by Everbank. A final point about the unemployment numbers. Every month they are revised, usually about 30 days after numbers about unemployment come out like they did today. But the revisions are never covered in the headlines. That's a back page story, so to speak. The major media, TV, might not cover them at all. Oftentimes those fairly robust numbers, so to speak, or better than projected numbers, I should say, are ratcheted down, and they are worse than they actually appear in the media and in the headlines originally. You'll find that information in the Daily Pfennig. Lou Rossetti, the Blue Ridge Reporter.